Good morning, everyone. I am Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. Welcome to another edition of our weekly post-cabinet press briefings. It's a morning with a difference here at our post-cabinet press brief, because what we actually have is the signing of an MOU for Phase 2 of the Juvenile Justice Program project. And what I'll do now is to turn over to Ms. Veronica Charles, who is the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment. In Phase 2 of our post-cabinet press briefing, we will be speaking to the Minister for Youth, Sport, the Arts and Culture, Senator the Honorable Nolan Cox. So without any further ado, I turn over now to Ms. Veronica Charles.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of Grenada, USAID and the OECS Commission for the implementation of the OECS USAID Juvenile Justice Project Phase 2. Honorable Delma Thomas, Minister for Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment, His Excellency Dr. Didicus Jules, Director General of the OECS, Mr. Stephen Farm, Principal Officer, U.S. Embassy, other members of the U.S. delegation, welcome. The second phase of the OECS Juvenile Justice Reform Project will build upon earlier child justice reforms and work in Phase 1. The desired impact of this phase is youth in conflict with the law, rehabilitated and reintegrated into society. It is anticipated that this will be achieved through the realization of 3 long-term outcomes. 1, establishment of an effective system of diversion which serves the needs of children in conflict with the law. 2, establishment of a system of rehabilitation underpinned by evidence-based diagnosis and treatment for children in conflict with the law. 3, successful reintegration of children in conflict with the law into society. At this time, I will invite His Excellency Dr. Didicus Jules, Director General, OECS Commission, to give us some brief remarks.
Thank you, Madam PS. Honorable Minister, Representative of USAID, colleagues, members of the press. I want to start by referencing the goals and objectives that were outlined by PS Charles in relation to the second phase of the USAID JJRP project. Because sometimes we measure things by what they've achieved, but there are instances also where we need to assess things not only by what they have achieved, but by what they have avoided. And I think our engagement in this sector with USAID, with the JJRP, is a classical example of this. Because it is not just about finding alternative ways of dealing with youth in conflict with the law, but doing that in a way that ensures that they do not fall back into a cycle of crime, punishment, and recidivism that results in a deepening cycle of crime and criminality. And that's why I said it's important for us to start to measure this not only by what it has achieved or what it is achieving and what it will continue to achieve, but importantly by what it has avoided. Because every young person for whom we find alternatives to the usual approach to punishment is a young person who has been saved from becoming a hardcore criminal. And God alone knows how many murders would have been avoided, how much crime would have been avoided by the approach being promulgated through the JJRP. As the project moves towards its penultimate year, the services of a project implementation consulting team has been engaged in order to support member states in developing the procedures, policies, the assessments of programs, and building staff capacity that is geared towards changing the philosophical approaches and conduct towards juvenile justice. Again, in the case of the JJRP, it's not a simple matter of simply putting in place new techniques, new approaches, new systems, but importantly changing mindsets. And the truth of the matter is that in our justice system, because of our colonial legacy, there are a lot of persons whose view of crime and punishment is old school, particularly when it comes to young people. And there's no consideration of the history of abuse, perhaps flawed upbringing, the internalization of failure from the education system, that there's no consideration of that in terms of how some of these young people enter the door of crime. And how are we to address that in order to not punish, but correct and put on a different pathway? The testimonials that we have been hearing from the young people who have thus far been through the different modalities of this program have been very encouraging. And there was a youth summit in January of this year in Guyana at which some of those testimonials were made. I really hope that we have a recording of some of these testimonials somewhere, because what we would certainly like to do at the OECS Commission is to do a documentary towards the end of this project that speaks to the efficacy of the JJRP. Let me end by expressing once again our thanks to USAID for its continued support to the member states as well as to the OECS Commission. I recently conducted a review of our portfolio of projects. We have a pipeline of $110 million worth of projects managing at the OECS, and the largest single contributor to that pipeline is USAID. It's not just in juvenile justice, but it's also in areas, a balanced portfolio of interventions that have to do with climate change, resilience building, with youth, with education. And one of the things that we are trying to do at the OECS is to ensure that even if we may have a USAID project on early learners on the one hand and juvenile justice on the other, that these projects need somehow to create the synergies required so that the work we do in education helps to strengthen what we do in juvenile justice, and some of the insights from juvenile justice helps us in a preventative way from allowing young persons in the education system to fall through the cracks. And ultimately, because we've seen this happen, and that has been a mantra for me, we have to ensure that while we are supported and funded by our friends, we cannot take this funding for granted. I've seen too many projects flawlessly executed with great results. The project ends, the funding ends, and at the end of the day, 5 years later, it's as if nothing ever happened. We need to use those projects as opportunities to change what I call the DNA of the sector in which they are being implemented, so that when the project ends, we are doing things differently and better in a permanent way, not just as a project intervention. And again, JJRP is a good example of this because it is changing the institutional character of our legal system when it comes to how we address juveniles in conflict with the law. So with that said, I want to thank our colleagues from USAID for the assistance that they continue to give. And it's not just monetary assistance, but it's also a lot of technical support and close collaboration. Thank you very much, and we look forward to the successful implementation of Phase 2.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dewes. We thank you for that comment that we are not just looking at our achievement, but it will be a different approach in how lives will be changed to prevent children from falling further into recidivism. At this time, I want to invite Mr. Stephen Fromm, Principal Officer, U.S. Embassy, to make some brief remarks. Mr. Fromm.
Thank you, and good morning. Honorable Delma Thomas, Minister of Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment, Director General of the OECS, Didicus Jules, Mrs. Veronica Charles, Permanent Secretary, my colleagues here from USAID, other government representatives here, representatives of the justice sector, the media representatives here, and all of the others, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to be able to represent the United States government and say just a few words about this great work going on. Today's ceremony to sign a memorandum of understanding for the U.S. Agency for International Development supported Juvenile Justice Reform Project, or JJRP, is a great thing. Today's signing reflects the collective commitment of the United States, the government of Grenada, and the OECS to provide alternative pathways that support the successful rehabilitation and reintegration of youth in conflict with the law, as you've heard. Under the JJRP, we have worked with the Ministry of Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment and other local partners to support renovation of the Bacolet Juvenile Rehabilitation Center and to improve its rehabilitation services. Together, we are establishing a pretrial diversion program for youth in conflict with the law and a reintegration program which provides opportunities for training and employment upon their release. These are a few of several USAID activities that support youth in conflict with the law and their families. The JJRP is part of a broader program that the American people are partnering with the government and people of Grenada. In the education sector, the U.S. government partners with the OECS to improve the reading abilities of the students at grade kindergarten to Form 3 levels, and with more than 360 teachers in Grenada trained, and over 6,700 students benefited from improved reading instruction. This MOU symbolizes the importance of JJRP's work in Grenada and the critical partnership that serve as a foundation for achieving its objectives. Delinquency, violence, and crime are often complex and controversial issues. The challenges they present require the partners' combined expertise and resources to determine the appropriate and relevant solutions based on evidence and best practices. Hopefully, today's ceremony will provide all of us further impetus to work together to find and provide those solutions. The Grenadian government has taken a proactive approach to addressing the needs of youth and their families, and I commend you for this commitment and for being a leader in the region for these programs. During the course of this project, Grenada instituted reforms and provided lessons learned which can be used by other countries to guide their own child justice reform agendas. For instance, Grenada was an early adopter of the child justice legislation, as well as pre- and post-trial diversion programs. I know you're also trying novel approaches to foster interagency collaboration and to provide support for youth leaving the Bacolet Rehabilitation Center so that they can successfully reintegrate back into their families and their communities. These are all concrete examples of Grenada leadership in the region and how you have improved the support available to youth and their families. Our work together is intended to create a better future for youth, who are a country's greatest asset, after all. Experience has shown that punishment alone does not change offending behavior. In fact, it sometimes reinforces it. The work required to make reform efforts successful is difficult and requires the efforts of many partners working together. And I'm sure you're all aware of individuals, and I've seen these myself here during my time in Grenada, that have gone through this program and been successful. Unfortunately, there are also the opposite result. That is why our collaborative approach, and one that is inclusive development, in which we partner with families, communities, government, and local stakeholders to develop tools, programs, and support to help so that no one is ever left behind. My experiences during my time here in Grenada motivated me, and I think most of us in this room, in fact all of us, not just most of us, to keep working to improve the opportunities available to the youth. I applaud the dedication of all partners involved in this work and urge your continued commitment as the United States government restates its own commitment through the signing of this Memorandum of Understanding. We look forward to continuing to partner with Minister Thomas and other partners in government, with Dr. Jules at the OECS, and partners in the international development and NGO sector to push these important reforms ahead. I am eager to see what can be accomplished and expect great strides toward improved lives for the youth of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fromm. Thank you so much for enlightening us on the assistance that USAID would have provided to the government and people of Grenada and to the OECS in looking at alternative ways, pathways to rehabilitation and giving our children a second chance. We are very grateful. At this time, I will invite Minister Thomas to make some remarks.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Madam Permanent Secretary. His Excellency Dr. Didicus Jules, Director General of the OECS Commission, Mr. Stephen Fromm, Principal Officer from U.S. Embassy, Grenada, representative from USAID, other staff members from the Embassy. A pleasant good morning to you, every one of us, and members of the media, good morning. I am extremely pleased this morning to be here in today's signing ceremony of this new Memorandum of Understanding, which lays the foundation and framework for us to build on the progress we have made in regards to juvenile justice reform here in Grenada. Today marks another installment in our determination to save our children. I am very pleased and thankful for the OECS Commission and the USAID for the assistance they have given us in juvenile justice reform in Grenada. But I am also pleased to say that as a government, we are committed. So we are not going to only use the funds, and after the end of the fund cycle, the project or the program gone to the ground. As a government, we will put our monies where our mouth is, and we have continued to put our money where our mouth is, and we will work to ensure that we provide juvenile justice reform. So as a government, we are really committed, Dr. Jules and Mr. Farm, to ensure that we do what it takes to protect our boys and girls from falling through the cracks. A few years ago, we embarked on this journey, which resulted in, among other things, the establishment of the Juvenile Rehabilitation Center at Grand Bacalet. We view this then, as we do now, as an important foundation block to a deeper commitment and a broader policy. The primary goals of the juvenile justice system, in addition to maintaining public safety are skill development, rehabilitation, addressing treatment needs, and successful reintegration of youth into the community. Extensive work was done with the government of Grenada and our key stakeholders through phase 1. The following were achieved: training needs assessment and development of training programs for staff of the Bacalet Juvenile and Rehabilitation and Treatment Center, regionally and locally, and in the U.S. Civil works to complete the Bacalet Center, professional development for ministry officials and key stakeholders, procurement of vocational training tools for the center, equipping of the center to deliver programs, development of operation manuals, human resource manual, organizational design, and other manuals, development of system and structures for the modernization of the juvenile justice system in Grenada, public education of the juvenile justice programs, improved data management system for juvenile justice, research into juvenile justice delinquencies in Grenada, among others. OECS USAID is the largest developmental partner on juvenile justice for Grenada. As a people, we are eternally grateful for the support provided to Grenada in this process of rehabilitation of the young people of this dear country. Today, we will sign the Memorandum of Understanding for the implementation of Phase 2. The government of Grenada and the OECS are pleased that USAID has extended the project to Phase 2. We look forward to support that will provide, through Phase 2 in particular, the development of programs for juveniles and strengthening of staff capacity to work with children in conflict with the law. We waited long for this occasion as it demonstrates the commitment of all of us to work in the best interest of our children. After all, it takes more than the parents to raise a child, but the village. As a government, we will work with all our partners to put systems, structures, and programs in place to assist those who society has failed, understanding that we all have different roles to play in the development of our youth. We all have, I believe, the same aim in seeing that our youths are made into productive and law-abiding citizens. We also must contribute towards molding the youth, and hence we must be in the business together. Indeed, it is important to note that a recent research in the United States has concluded that the issue of juvenile behavior must be seen and addressed through a scientific lens. I thought that the findings of the MacArthur Foundation Research Network on Adolescent Development and Juvenile Justice in the United States were very interesting, and I would like to share. The research suggested that developmental psychology, which demonstrated youth development immaturity, particularly susceptibility to negative peer influence, and the capacity for change and rehabilitation, is supported by neuroscience, which has shown that key areas of the adolescent brains continue to develop until the mid-20s. The research findings should force all of us to explore that adoption of new rules and standards for law enforcement, interrogation of youth's competency to stand trial, and the reliability of youth confession, among other things. Youths involved in the juvenile justice system must have robust and meaningful rights, access to education, and developmentally appropriate treatment, and opportunities to become healthy and productive adults. As the Minister of Social Development, Housing, and Community Empowerment, one of the goals of our ministry is to promote the goals of consolidating the family structure as a means of ensuring a more balanced society. And the rehabilitation of our youth must be a key component of this. Juvenile justice reform will not just benefit the individual or even just the immediate family, but it will benefit the wider community. It will benefit our entire country. And therefore, we are indeed pleased to be here this morning to be signing that. And as I said earlier, as a government, as a ministry, we are committed to working along with our young people, those who will be getting in conflict with the law, to ensure that they can reintegrate it and be normal citizens back into society. I urge every one of us, do not cast spell on our young people. Many times, in closing, we do not understand what our young people are going through, and sometimes we just cast them aside. But they have different issues, sometimes home issues, family issues, societal issues, and therefore we must work with them to ensure that we can assist them in whatever the issues are, so that they can be better citizens of our country. I thank you, and I look forward for us to doing more for our young people who are getting in conflict with the laws, and to ensure that maybe in the future that we do not have young people getting in conflict with the laws, because we will be able to identify them before those at-risk young people and be able to deal with them so that they would not have to get in conflict with the laws. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Thomas, for committing resources to this very important issue of juvenile justice. I must say that now we do have established a juvenile justice unit within the Ministry of Social Development. Before, we never had a unit, and through the support of USAID, we had a consultancy to design the juvenile justice unit. So coming from the recommendations from that consultancy, we now have a unit established within the Ministry of Social Development. So thank you so much. At this time, we will do the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding.
Let me take this one for you. Just the front. Just the front of the sign this one, so we set it back up. Exchange. I'll let each of them shake hands and an exchange. So it's all signed. Just keep one in front of each. So exchange just like yes. Yeah, just shake hands, you sign, shake hands and exchange copies.
Okay, so at this time, we will have the exchange of copies.
Well, thank you very much. That was the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of Grenada, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, and the United States Agency for International Development, Eastern and Southern Caribbean Mission. And this is for the implementation of Phase 2 of the Juvenile Justice Reform Project. At this time, I'd like to invite any questions we have from members of the media as it relates to this particular project. I know there were several remarks delivered here this morning, very informative. I don't know if you would have any further questions. Are there any questions? We can allocate about 5 minutes to this, and then we'd need to go into the second segment of our press briefing.
Okay. Gerald Joseph, GBN, question to anyone at the table. With this MOU signed, how soon can we see the rollout of Phase 2?
Well, it's already in rollout mode. It is already in rollout mode. This is just a formality. Yeah.
Sherry and Noel, GIS. So Phase 2 will run for what period, and what does Phase 2 encompass? Like, what's involved in Phase 2 of the project?
Yeah, well, PS outlined in detail for Grenada what it is, what's going to be involved. There's work with the Bakole Center, there's training, there's further work, training for the staff of the center. There's been some physical rehabilitation work being done. And at the regional level, it's the application of the architecture of laws and regulations that pertain to different forms of sentencing for young persons.
If possible,
I think I was just going to say it also represents an opportunity for the United States government to add a next level of funding to continue the programs, and I think that's part of this as well.
if possible, can the funding for the Phase 2 be disclosed? The amount?
We don't seem to have those figures ready, but I can follow up on that and get back to you.
It's the original project, yes, so some here and some.
And it's a lot.
It's 14 million.
Yes. So the total value is 14 million for the entire project. Yeah, the total value for the OECS project is 14 million. I cannot tell you specifically how much of this 14 million Grenada will be getting, but it will be a few million.
Yeah, it's, for the region, it's 4.7 million. We're just being told by the experts. And, but that's for the region. How much will actually come to Grenada will be determined by need and resources and the programs that are agreed to.
Okay, thank you very much, lady and gentlemen at the table. It is certainly a very exciting moment, one that shows that the current administration is committed to the youth of this nation. Through this project, we are dealing with the rehabilitation of our youth, ensuring that they are not allowed to fall through the cracks, and that we do whatever we can to protect this very important asset, because they represent the future of the nation. So with that, we come to the end of the first segment of this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have the Minister responsible for youth, culture, and the arts, Senator the Honorable Nolan Cox. I'll see you shortly.
Polymer notes.
What is different about these notes?
The feel. Polymer notes are made from a thin plastic film which makes the notes feel smoother than the paper notes.
The orientation.
The notes have a portrait orientation. You will read the notes from top to bottom instead of left to right as you do with the paper notes.
Unique tactile feature.
The front of each note has raised bumps at the top left-hand corner. These bumps form shapes that are familiar to you.
Holographic foil strip.
This feature is on the $20, $50, and $100. When you tilt the notes, the images and colors in this section will change.
New image on the $50.
The back of the $50 bears the image of former governor of the ECCB, the late Honorable Sir K. Dwight Venner.
New signature.
All the notes bear the signature of the current governor, Timothy N.J. Antoine.
EC Polymer Notes. Cleaner, safer, stronger.
Hello, my name is Michaela Williams, winner of the Festival of the Arts Secondary School Solo Pan Competition. And these are my colleagues.
We are members of the Full Comanchero Steel Orchestra, your current panorama champions.
Having won 3 of the last full panorama competitions in Spice Mass.
We are inviting you to Spice Mass 2019, especially junior and senior panorama, at the National Stadium on Saturday, 10th August 2019.
Come and enjoy the experience, the excitement, and the skills of the players of the various steel orchestra. Suzuki Pan Wizards,
Republic Bank Interlaps,
New Dimension,
Panacea,
Melody Warriors,
Rainbow City All-Stars, Grand Roy Pan Angels,
Digicel Florida All-Stars,
and of course, Flow Comancheros.
After Panorama, you can join us on the road for Juve and Parade of the Bands on Monday the 12th and Tuesday the 13th of August.
Spice Mass 2019. Don't miss it.
I really love it. 2018 was great. 2019, this will be epic. This is me, Scholar.
And as mentioned before, I am now joined by the Minister responsible for Youth, Sports, Culture, the Arts, Senator the Honorable Nolan Cox. He hasn't been with us for a while, so I'm sure he has lots to update us on this morning. We have the festive season fast approaching, plus there are a number of other developments with regard to sports and other areas within his portfolio. Senator Cox?
Thank you, and a pleasant morning to listeners, viewers on GIS. Media personnel, thank you very much for being here. As Press Secretary indicated, it's been quite a while since I've been with you. Not being idle, but busy. I want to today speak a little bit of some sporting matters, and also culture, and more specifically about steel pan later on in the morning. I want to first start out by expressing official congratulations on behalf of the Ministry of Sports in particular to Ms. Ishona Charles, who we know is our first official para-athlete, Grenada's first para-athlete. She was recently registered and categorized. I had an opportunity to meet with the Paralympic Committee here in Grenada, and I also want to extend congratulations to them. They are very excited. They are quite motivated and wanted to add more athletes to the cast. Just recently, they're also looking at other opportunities for persons who are hearing impaired as well. So we want to congratulate them and congratulate Ishona, who will be here today. I think she's returning today from the games in Arizona, which took place between the 22nd and the 26th of this month. She was accompanied by our coach, Paul Philip, and she won gold at that event. The Desert Challenge Games in Arizona. She won gold for javelin, in the javelin discipline. Actually, I did accompany them. We were on same flight when they were leaving, and had an interesting conversation with her. She's very excited to be given that opportunity to represent Grenada in that regard, and so we expect more things from her going forward. As we continue to look at sports, we know coming up on Whitsuntide, we have our annual Whitsuntide Games. This year it's going to be more exciting than last year. We have a number of countries participating. We have countries from like Antigua and Barbuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts and Nevis, athletes from St. Lucia, athletes from Trinidad and Tobago, French Guyana, Guadeloupe, also from the United States. So I think we have, right now, currently we have over 230-something athletes who have already registered to come in. That is separating apart from our national team. And I think more registrations are currently ongoing. From the national team side, we have about 100-something athletes who will be partaking. So a lot of our athletes from overseas will be here as well to represent Grenada. We would have Lyndon, of course, will be here. I think Josh is already here. Kurt will be here. Kurt Modest, Markin Felix. A number of persons will be here to participate. I think one of the highlight for us would be our 4x4 relay team, national relay team. We have been talking about this for a number of years. We believe that we have what it takes to represent in that category at the international level. So our national 4x4 relay team will be competing against the Trinidad and Tobago relay team in an effort to qualify for World Champions in Doha later on this year, between September and October. So I think that is significant, a significant development for us. Also, we are also paying attention to a young and exciting 100-meter athlete who will be participating in Grenada on that weekend. A young man from Trinidad and Tobago by the name of Randall Sorello. I think he is clocking sometime like 9 seconds. So I think that is pretty interesting. I think that will create some excitement for us here as well. So we want to just ask persons to continue to come out and support our athletes, local athletes, and also international athletes. Athletics is a big thing for us in Grenada. We have been doing pretty well, and we want to build on the successes from Carriacou through the Whitsuntide Games. And so we're asking persons to come out and support the Grenada Athletics Association, and of course the Ministry of Sports, as we put on a showcase for the entire world come the weekend of the 8th and 9th. Also, we believe that the initiatives that the Ministry of Sports have been working on over the past year has contributed significantly to some of the successes, and so we want to take this opportunity, of course, as Minister, to congratulate the staff and everybody who has been contributing, and most importantly, a lot of our sponsors who have been supporting the development of sports, not directly to the ministry, but sometimes to an athlete individually, sometimes to a club. We believe that those contributions are significant towards the success of where we are with sports in Grenada, so we want to recognize them in that regard. On the culture side, which I know most persons are very much interested in, since that we're in the season of Carnival, what I can indicate that plans for Carnival is progressing steadily. It's progressing okay. We are engaging all our stakeholders as much as we can. A number of events are already finalized. Some we're still discussing with our stakeholders to ensure that we get the right mix and to finalize events for the 2019 Spice Mass Carnival. One of the things I am most cognizant about is that Spice Mass have a number of stakeholders. I believe it has one of the largest amount of stakeholders in terms of event, and it affects a number of persons in some cases negatively. Some people don't like loud noise, some people don't like loud music, some people don't like Carnival. That is not the thing. Sometimes we have event other places and the police will have to reconfigure the traffic, and you will have little hiccups for other persons. And so we understand those engagements. All we're asking is that you continue to cooperate with us as we try to put on one of the biggest and most exciting events in the region, for not only just for Grenada, but we believe for the world to see. And so we understand those challenges, and we ask you to work with us during this period. It is important. This event has significant economic benefits for our country as well, and it's something that we love and cherish. It's part of our culture. So we are always going to have those engagements, and we as Spicemas and the Ministry of Culture will continue to have those conversations and to find common ground to ensure that everybody can coexist during this festive season. So later on, I know that we are supposed to have a scheduled press conference with the Greater Steel Pan Association regarding to give some developments as to where they are. They have had some challenges in terms of the operation, and they are at a place where much more better from the past couple of months, and they wanted an opportunity to engage the media directly themselves. And we have been working with them and discussing with them over the past couple of weeks, and they have asked that they be given the opportunity to engage the media themselves and not myself or the ministry making statements on their behalf. So if for some reason over the past couple of weeks you didn't hear anything, it is because they would have asked to allow them an opportunity to put the house in order, and of course for them to address the public themselves. And so I want to respect them in that regard. So they're going to be here after this official press cabinet post briefing. They are going to be given an opportunity to take questions for you and to inform you as to where they are and the preparations, not only just for Carnival, but just for the Steel Band movement going forward. So at this time, if there are any questions, which I presume there might just be one or two, no more than that, I will be pleased to entertain such. Thank you very much.
Minister, you've certainly made my job easy. Just to reiterate what Minister just said, the floor is open for questions, and one or two.
Sherry and Noel, GIS. Minister, I want to head into the aspect of sport. You mentioned about the Whitsuntide Games on the weekend and the number of athletes that we expect to come in. But being involved in sports and following sports, I'm happy to hear you mention the 4x4 national relay team, because that is something Grenadians have been clamoring for. Are you in a position to tell us who are the athletes that are going to make up our 4x4 team that is going to come up against the TNT team for that trial?
I cannot tell the final team because really and truly 4x4 relay team would require not just the exact number of persons who will be running on the track, but much more than that. So the team is much larger than who will be actually running. But I know that Kurt, Lyndon, and they are also there, and a couple, I think Makim, a couple of the guys who are out on Monroe College is part of that relay team as well. But those information is rest with the Olympic Committee. They make the final decision on who that final team will be. But it is all local Grenadians who will be representing on the track. I think the last event that I think they came third, the last event that they participated in, so it's quite a bit promising for us. And what we're looking at is a process. We are hoping that the guys can get up to speed in terms of the time, and then maybe it might entice. Well, Braylon is also on that team as well. There is talks to see if we can get Kirani to be part of that relay team as well. We're hoping, but it's a little way off. As you know, he's going through a rough time now. I had an opportunity to visit him. Also, we spent a long time together. We had a nice chat with him and his family as well, and he's doing pretty good. They are all together, the whole family, and I know that they all will come out stronger from the loss of their mom. So it's a work in progress. What we really want is for the nation to give them the support. They're looking for each and every one of us to support them to ensure that they continue to go out there and to do their best to represent Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martinique.
And my final question for you has to do with culture. You mentioned about all the build-up activities and the issues and so. How satisfied are you now with the progress and the process as to how things are being put in place for Spice Mass 2019?
Well, as with everything, there's always room for improvement. I believe that the office, the stakeholders, everyone is doing their best to ensure that we have something excellent to put forward as Spice Mass 2019. So I must say that we're probably satisfied where we are, but we are striving for better. We are always striving for better. I just want to also to make mention and to recognize our sponsors. They have been pretty excellent thus far. A number of persons have come on board and not just given in kind, but hard cash towards investing in Spice Mass 2019, and we are very much appreciative of them. And we are working to get more persons on board as well.
Minister, I know you said 2 questions, but GIS took them, so we'll allow the other media to have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Okay. Minister, for the planning for this year's carnival, in terms of preparations, will subventions be paid only this year? What's the time frame?
Well, one of the things that we are trying to do is to set some framework for Spice Mass going forward, to set some definitive timelines for certain things to happen and roll out. And what we recognize is that in engaging our stakeholders, they have indicated that sometime there were various times when the launch was earlier, there were various times when the launch was later. So it interfered with a number of things. There's various times that subvention was paid at a particular time, and it also affected how the preparations. So what we have been doing is striving to nail down some definitive dates going forward. And for example, one of those things in terms of the launch, we have decided that going forward, we know when the launch is going to be. It's going to be that first Saturday in May going forward. That weekend, just after we know we have the St. Mark's Day and the Carriacou Maroon Festival. So that weekend thereafter, that weekend before Mother's Day. So that will be the date for the launch going forward. As regards to the subventions, we have been working on also trying to nail down a definitive time when we're going to make subventions available. And we're looking at a tentative date as May 31st. We're striving to make subventions available by the 31st of May of this year and to maintain that going forward. So stakeholders know when those subventions are going to be available, and so they can plan and prepare accordingly to ensure that we have a good product. So that is what is happening for this year, and we're working towards keeping that steady going forward. So we're looking at the 31st of May to try to meet those subventions. We are trying our best to make sure we have it happen for the 31st of May.
One of the challenges last year for Spice Mass was people streaming the shows, well, they say illegally. What is is there plans to handle that situations this year?
Well, I just thinking about the question, that in itself is quite a difficult task. I am not too clear as to what sort of a legislation that we have that can treat with confiscating somebody's cell phone or charging them for using the cell phone. I don't know, so let me not speak too much on that. I don't know in terms of the magnitude of the problem, or if it is a problem, or if somebody taking 5 minutes of a particular show and streaming it, if that has any influence on somebody wanting to attend a show or not attend a show. I can see that really as a big issue, because knowing our people, they like to have experience things live, to be there in real. But I know there are some persons who, for other reasons, may not be able to attend a particular show and who want to see it streaming. We have streaming facilities through Spice Mass as well. We have partnership with different companies who would stream the events live. But I don't know if somebody having a cell phone streaming little snippets of a show really have that impact. We probably would have to do some scientific analysis to see if it's really affecting in revenue in any way whatsoever. I know that there are concerns raised in other countries, but I think a lot of it probably is just person just talking about it but not actually looking at it from a scientific standpoint. If we have some data that can point to that, then and if it require for us to take some action, then I believe that we would. But at this point in time, I don't see it as a big issue. But as with everything else, sometimes you shouldn't wait for it to get out of hand, and so maybe we can have a look at it going forward. Yeah.
Another question. You would have highlighted on the Pan Association coming to the media instead of the ministry. There were reports that an interim committee had been appointed by the ministry. Could you elaborate or disprove such reports?
Okay. Let me clarify that. There is an interim committee, and the interim committee was not formed by the ministry, but by the steel bands themselves. What the ministry did, what we did, was just to facilitate the discussions, to facilitate the process. When we met with the Steel Band Association, we offer a couple of options how they can resolve their little conflict and impasse that they had among themselves. And one of the things that they were very stern on, and we were offering some options, and they came out clearly and said, look, we do not in any way want to violate our constitution, the Steel Band Association constitution, and any options must be within the confines of the constitution. So the constitution afforded an opportunity for an interim committee to be formed, which they did. I think it required 60% of the membership to agree for the committee to be formed. What we did is that we to work together with them, and they draft some terms of reference for the interim committee, and also each band identified persons who they believe is fitting to serve on that committee, and there was a voting through electronic voting. And so they voted for who they want to be on that interim committee. So all we did was just to facilitate the process. They made all the decisions, all the list of the terms of reference. They agreed on those, and they agreed on what they wanted the interim committee to work on. And so the elections are constitutionally due in September. So this interim committee will operate from now until elections in September. So you may well find that the persons who are on this committee may not be on the final executive, as well as you may find them keeping this same committee and officially electing them. So that is what they have been doing. So all the decisions regarding what happens have been taken by the Grenada Steel Band Association. The Ministry of Culture, we were only facilitating the process, providing the room for the meetings to take place and everything like that. So that is what we have been doing. So they will be here shortly thereafter, and to speak more, so you can direct more questions as to what are the rules, what they'll be doing going forward.
All right, we have no further questions, and we're just about 5 minutes over time. Minister, I'd like to thank you very much for appearing on our post-cabinet press briefing this morning. Certainly lots to look forward to with the upcoming carnival season and the Whitsuntide Games coming up next month. What date is it?
Yes, the games is 8th and 9th. And not just the Whitsuntide Games, we also have music festival, and we also have regatta, which Pidematic Whitsuntide Regatta. So we have a lot of activities. It's a fun, full weekend. Everybody can choose whichever area that they love to participate in.
And of course, let's make it clean, safe, fun. So with that, we come to the end of this week's post-cabinet press briefing. I am Philomena Robertson. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again next week.
notes are made from a thin plastic film which makes the notes feel smoother than the paper notes.
The orientation.
The notes have a portrait orientation. You will read the notes from top to bottom instead of left to right as you do with the paper notes.
Unique tactile feature.
The front of each note has raised bumps at the top left-hand corner. These bumps form shapes that are familiar to you.
Holographic foil strip.
This feature is on the $20, $50, and $100. When you tilt the notes, the images and colors in this section will change.
New image on the $50.
The back of the $50 bears the image of former governor of the ECCB, the late Honorable Sir K. Dwight Venner.
New signature.
All the notes bear the signature of the current governor, Timothy N.J. Antoine.
EC polymer notes. Cleaner, safer, stronger.
And I sing it deep. Let me go down me. Let me go and fold me. Let me go down and hold me. Let me go deep. Let me go down me. Let me go. I am it now to be free.
For you ever sting by a bee, a bumblebee, in the heart of your own country, your own country. Well, I feel a sting on the bottom and look to see what was wrong. I swore my bees around me and threatened my property. Them stinging you and you quiet because you don't have a bees. Them stinging me and I don't like it because I don't live in trees.
Billy is a bee. Ray is a bee. Don is a bee. So they're stinging everybody. Brady is a bee. Jack is a bee. Aaron is a bee. So they're stinging everybody. They're stinging them. 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 Morning, noon, and night. They're stinging them. They're stinging them.
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, yeah? It's a beautiful Thursday on the Isle of Spice, Grenada. My name is Sheldon Scott.
I'm Devon Romain,
Yes, indeed.
and I'm back.
Yes, sir. 10 minutes after the hour of 11 o'clock. Yeah, we're going straight into it directly. We've just had the post-cabinet press briefing from the ministerial complex this morning.
Yeah, and we had, up for bat, we had the Minister of Social Development and the representative from the United States Embassy, together with Dr. Didicus Jules, OECS representative. All right, and they were basically signing an agreement concerning the juvenile justice system and everything like that. So lots to share, and so coming out of that post-cabinet briefing and so with the minister, and so, and also Sheldon, we had one other minister.
Yes, we had the Honorable Norland Cox, Senator the Honorable Norland Cox, the Minister with responsibility for youth sport, well, sports and culture, specifically in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. And he was giving a little insight into some of the sports. And so I know one of the athletes should be returning today who has done pretty well for Grenada recently. Will be coming back in. And also we have one or two athletes. I know like Nathan Hood, he graduated recently. We had Nathan Hood and we had another athlete that graduated recently. So we're having some athletes that have been graduating out of the colleges in the United States and so. And he gave a bit of information about where we're at right now with some of the other athletes. Yeah? Nice. Beautiful.
That I put a spell on the audience. I got the class, they most them can't surpass. And by years, come I wanted to last. When you see me on this.
So folks, it's coming up. Yeah, just know it's the massive bingo. We're going to give you more information in relation to that. And I believe we have the Father's Day show. Devon, let them know about the Father's Day show.
Father's Day, big show, annual, yes, in Andrew Southwest. Women's Arm present Father's Day King Show. Yeah, date the 16th of June, 2019. Venue, Deluxe Cinema Grenville. Time, 5 p.m. Price of admission, you only pay $20. $20. 6 handsome fathers will be vying for the crown. Hey, and let me just tell you all, you're talking about handsome. I don't want to put the other adjectives to it, but you got to be there, right, to see those fathers perform, show their talent, and represent Southwest St. Andrews. Okay, so it's the 6th of June, right, at the Deluxe Cinema, 5 p.m.
All right.
16th of June, sorry.
Folks, this St. Andrews Southeast constituency, yeah, they're having their marquee breakfast. That's taking place this Saturday. 100% local food, and they're going to be having music and so on. So that's the Marquee Breakfast Village. It's going to be taking place this Saturday at the Marquee Basketball Court. Starting is breakfast, so it's starting early in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to also have cultural activities and other entertainment. You're going to get baked, saltfish, smoked herring, fish, chicken, all kind of thing. You're getting it live and direct down there in Marquee. That's taking place this Saturday. So for those of you up on the East Coast, yeah, you're going up or you're coming down the East Coast, you have the opportunity to pass in there and get your breakfast. And Marquee people, yeah, only offer lunch and thing one time for those that come a little late. Offer lunch and thing because, if I leave.
And sun rising early up in the east, by 5:30 outside bright. So don't say, boy, I'm waiting until 7 o'clock. You might miss out on the hot, right, delicious stuff. So go out there and support, right, the constituency out there in Marquee. Show them your love.
Yes, indeed. And also, yeah, we have coming up as well. I know it's kind of early to be talking about it, but you have the all-day Carnival Fete. Yeah, that's going to be at the Mount Helicon. And it's coming up on the 3rd of August, especially letting those of you out in the diaspora like Wade know what is going on, right? Eats and drinks on sale. Yeah, you could get eats for $10 per serving. They can have oil down, or waters, barbecue, curry, mutton, cuckoo, stew, fish, and much, much more. All right, ice cold solid bar and music by popular DJs, and the artists usually pass through as well. So you're gonna have some of the artists passing through. It's held on Carnival Saturday. This year though, it's gonna be held on August 3rd, so Emancipation Weekend. The Saturday of Emancipation Weekend is when you're going to be having the all-day fete, because a lot of people get used to it now being Carnival Saturday. So they come, they eat, they drink, they relax, and then panorama in the night, and then the white fetes. No, this time it's happening the week before. So you want to make the all-day fete, you have to come in early. All right, nice. So that's going to be taking place on the 3rd of August. Looking forward to seeing you all there. All right, nice. Also, the Inland Revenue Department, they're going around. They're making the rounds around the different parishes and so. And you're going to have the information that you could, if you want to get information, for instance, you want to pay your taxes or you want to find out your tax information, you want to register, yeah, you find that you get your quotation for your land and so on, and you find it too high and you want to speak to them, they are coming to you, yeah? So they're going to offer, you could pay your taxes, you could register your business or other things, advisories. You can also make your queries and your objections to your property tax and that sort of thing. All types of taxes will be addressed. So they're going to be in St. David the 30th. So St. David on Thursday, they're going to be in St. David at the District Revenue Office between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. So those of you in St. David who want to, you have different questions from the Inland Revenue Department, the IRD, you find, look, they charge me that amount for land, and I find they overcharge me. Or I find I've been overcharged for the last few years, so I'm paying too much. Or you may even find you're underpaying and you want to pay the proper thing.
You want to pay a proper thing.
Lots of people underpaying, you want to pay the proper thing.
Serious, a lot of people underpaying,
yeah.
So,
Or you just didn't make your payment yet and you want to get the opportunity to make that payment. The Inland Revenue Division, they're going to be there at the District Revenue Office in St. David this Thursday. Then on Friday, they move to St. Andrew at the Grenville Car Park. Again, same thing between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. So they're giving you the opportunity. They're coming to you so you could come in and pay your taxes. And if you have questions and queries, they're going to have the information there. They're going to have the officers there. You can go in and ask them. Carriacou, you have not been forgotten. They're coming your way between the 13th to the 14th of June, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the District Revenue Office up there in Hillsborough. So Carriacou, the Inland Revenue Division, they'll be up there between the 13th and 14th for 2 days, 13th and 14th of June, and between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. at the District Revenue Office. So you could ask your questions about your land, etc., 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 and your other tax payments. St. Patrick, they will be there on the 21st of June at the District Revenue Office up there. And again, in all cases, it's between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. None of them are different. With the next street, now saying that on next street is different. So St. John, they'll be on the 21st of June as well. So they're going to have one team in St. Patrick and one team in St. John on the 21st of June. The one in St. Patrick, they're there between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. at the District Revenue Office. For St. John, those of you in Guelph and surrounding areas, they'll be there the 21st of June as well, but between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. at the Guelph Nutmeg Pool. St. George, your day comes on the 28th of June. They're going to be on Wall Street in Granance. Yeah, so you could go down to Wall Street and thing, you get your local park and your handle your scene. So they're going to be at Wall Street in Grand Dance. That's between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. And also on the 29th of June, they're going to come into town. So they'll be close to the NIS car park entrance. So you could go, you take a bus, you drop, you come out from Willis, however, you drop, and you go and you handle your business, right? Yeah. Nice. So that's the Inland Revenue Department. We're going to continue to remind you so that you can come out to those activities. Also, we know that the NIS, they have their outreach taking place, giving people information in relation to the NIS.
And the way forward. Very, very, very important.
I'm trying to get their schedule. I think they're going to be, today. They're at the Bonaire Government School today. Yeah, so they're in St. Mark today at the Bonaire Government School. So for those of you that want to partake in the NIS forums, it's important for you to partake in the forums too, you know. It's important. And we'll get to why it's so important in a little while. It's important that you partake. Yeah. So today, Tuesday the 28th day of May at 5 p.m., they'll be at the Bonaire Government School. So those of you who want to find out more about the National Insurance Scheme and who also want to offer suggestions, you have the opportunity. Head to Bonaire Government School today. All right? The 4th of June, they will be moving to the Trade Center with a stakeholders meeting on the 4th of June. That's next week what?
Tuesday.
Next week, Tuesday. Yeah, so they're going to be at the Trade Center, and they're going to follow that on the 6th of June with a meeting at the Happy Hill Secondary School. So you can go out and you could hear about the different aspects of the National Insurance Scheme. Yeah, because several suggestions are being made.
Yeah.
Several suggestions. Same as the National Health Insurance, and they have, I'm looking for the schedule for the National Health Insurance meetings.
Consultations.
But I'm not seeing it on my system. Okay. No, it's there, but I am not seeing it on my system for some reason. But I'm searching for it.
I want to say a pleasant good morning to a special friend of ours, adamant listener, and so always listen and all contribute. Good morning, Mr. Gorey. He lives at St. Andrews, River in particular. Good morning to you. I hope you're feeling much better this morning. A little bit under the weather, and you are in all our prayers, my brother. All right, so take it easy, do what needs to be done, and so don't give the wife trouble, and so on. Take good care. All right, coming from the HARDTALK family.
All right.
Okay.
Let me say good morning to my good security partner, they down at Audit. I know he's in the booth there listening this morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Helen Marie. And we hope you have a wonderful day. Yeah. Helen Marie, she children band looking nice. And she's going to be coming out on the street and thing. The parade on the streets and everything. Usually the children parade with her band, the children. They have the children out in front and then you have the bigger people behind. So it's going to be nice. Nice?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, good morning to all the different mass bands around the island. Starting to prepare for Spice Mass 2019. Yeah, it's going to be a bang. Yeah. Peter Bain and Associates and, Helen and all the other band organizers. Hey, as the Minister of Culture rightly said this morning, we're looking forward to mass participation and so on. And for Grenada to be, the attention around August, Spice Mass time, you know, because, you know, we have it going on. Definitely the best festival in the world, in my view, around that summertime, right? Spice Mass.
Yeah, so quite a few things taking place with Spice Mass. The minister spoke about the Steel Band Association. They have put together the interim committee that was put together by the different steel bands. They voted and they put together the interim committee who is going to be taking the Steel Band Association into the carnival season. So we look forward to a nice panorama this year, along with some other activities. We're going to be hearing more from Spice Mass. We're going to make direct contact with the individuals there at Spice Mass, so you'll be seeing them in studio. I cannot say who our guests for this week are yet, but be assured that we will have guests in with us for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But there's one particular issue I think I wanted to mention here today, because I want to be clear on certain things. I looked at GBN News and I saw they did a story on Minister Nicholas Steele and his presentation in relation to national health insurance. And in that clip, and he said it there as well, I was at the facility, so I know, in that clip, he said that some of the things under consideration which have been suggested to government, let me say that again, some of the things under consideration which have been suggested to government are things like adjustment upwards of the VAT,
to
17%. That has been suggested. Another thing that has been suggested is another payment onto your salary, from your salary.
Payroll.
That has been suggested as well as a means of funding the national health insurance. And there are other suggestions that are coming up. Now, the thing is this. I think that the minister has been attacked, the government has been attacked. And I'm still trying to figure out under what reasoning are some individuals attacking the government. The government is coming to you and they're saying to you, this is what has been suggested to us. They're not saying this is what we're going to implement. They're saying this is what has been suggested to us. Because what is being proposed, and I don't think a lot of people really truly understand fully what is being proposed here. What is being proposed is that even if it's a payment that you're going to make, let's say you're going to make a payment of $5 a month, because we're not talking about a payment of how much, $100 a month per person. Let's say the payment is going to be $3 a month, or the payment is going to be $5 a month. From that $3 or $5 a month, you will be able to gain services worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you have something that happens to you, if the basket of services that are being offered, something happens to you that you need to dip into that basket of services, and I don't know what the basket of services are, but it may be something that if you had to pay for it out of your pocket, you could find yourself having to find tens of thousands of dollars, or having raffle, or having bingo, or having motorcade to try and raise the money to do something. What is being proposed is that everybody contributes in some form or fashion. Government will contribute a portion, the majority, and the working people of Grenada would contribute a portion as well. But at the end of the day, it will provide significant coverage to individuals. Now, what government is saying is this is the proposal. The minister didn't come and say this is effective now. In fact, he was at pains to explain, and Nazif, I don't know if you could get that piece for me where the minister is speaking about the that thing. He was at pains to explain that Cabinet had not yet had a specific meeting on the proposals, on what is being proposed, because what government did, government didn't come and say, well, we're setting up a national health insurance, and just say, okay, we set up a national health insurance, so we go pay for it? Okay, everybody pay that amount of money. Government didn't just come and do that and go in cabinet and pass it, and then go in parliament and pass it, draft the legislation and go in parliament and pass it and make it law. Government didn't do that. What the government did is government say, we want to implement national health insurance. So a committee, the secretariat has been set up. They have been meeting with individuals throughout the state. They've been meeting with people all throughout Grenada. Yeah? And these are the suggestions that came from people as they have been meeting people around the country. Because let me say this, even if it break your hand, now how much to go to the private institution there and have a cast done? If I break hand, that could put you out how much? About 3,000? 300 if you have a break hand. That could put you out 300, right? Just with the cast.
You're talking about the X-ray.
What about the X-ray?
No.
So in total, it could cost you about how much? If you have a broken hand and you go to the private institution, you don't go to government. About $550. So let's say $550. But if government is saying to you, pay $3 a month. Let's say that's what they say pay. I'm not saying that is what is there. I'm saying this because, you know, some people hear what they want to hear and some people see what they want to see. I'm saying, next thing government say, let's pay $3 towards it. And you getting something, you talk about 500 and something does it because by the time you have to get an X-ray, and so on, even worse if ambulance services have to come and pick you up there. So by the time you finish, it's not really $550. If you're going through the government service, it's going to cost a lot more. Yeah? Your $3 you're paying there.
Every month.
Yes, still ain't covering the cost of the treatment that you receive, plus the medication, plus the staff, plus the facility and all those sort of things. Yeah? So what government is saying, can everyone make a contribution? Not government really, but what the secretariat is saying, what the suggestion is saying is, can we go that way? I've listened to the young lady that wants to become leader of the NDC there. I listened to Miss Claudette Joseph this morning.
Young lady, you say?
Well, okay.
I was trying to figure out who's a young lady.
So somebody in the 90s, she's a young lady.
Oh, okay.
All right. But anyhow, but to hear her this morning, and to hear, sometimes you're trying to flatter her too, but to hear her this morning, and the thing is, you have a lot of people that are saying no, 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 no. But they're not saying what should it be replaced with. We have a lot of people.
Solutions.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who are saying, we don't want this, we don't want that, we don't want the other. But they're not saying, what do you replace it with? Nobody has a problem with you saying you don't want it, you know. This is a free and democratic country, as everybody could see, because everybody does say what they want to say. Yeah? As long as they don't cross certain line and you end up in court, everybody does say what you want to say. Yeah. You have a democratic right to give your opinion.
What are the alternatives? They're not giving alternatives.
I see Depot speaks of a syntax. Yeah. Raise the price of alcohol and cigarette.
Of course.
No problem with that.
No problem with that.
Raise the price. Make VAT on alcohol and cigarette 30%.
Yes, because
I have no problem with that.
There is a direct link between alcohol, tobacco, and health.
Yeah. I also have no problem if a significant tax is placed on soft drinks.
Yes. Carbonated drinks.
Carbonated drinks. I have no problem with that. The reason being that we know that a lot of the health problems that comes after the people that end up on dialysis because their kidney gone,
obesity,
is because they overdo it. Nobody is saying that you can't drink a Coke. I drink a Coke this morning.
Of course, nobody can.
Coke, is it? I drink a Coke this morning. Yeah. Certain people you want to hear that. But yeah, you can drink your soft drink and so, but if you go above and beyond,
that's where the problem comes.
There has to be a limit.
Moderation.
So if you, for yourself, want to spend a lot on things that are going to damage your health in the long run, then in my view, you should help the other taxpayers who are not doing that pay for whatever it is. So the sugary foods and the processed sugary foods and processed sugary drinks and so on, carbonated drinks and so, alcohol, cigarettes and so, I have no problem. But you're not hearing these sort of discussions. You're just hearing from some people, we don't want. And as soon as you try to open their eyes, they attack you.
They gone political.
Isaiah Dashing Leaf, water has run off me. We have a caller.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to you, my friend.
Well, I'm telling you, you're all on a roll. But listen to this. It's unfortunate when we will have people playing politics with the lives of our people and playing politics with the lives of the individuals that they expect to support them one day. I don't know why they are trying to spin the unspinnable. Because, like you say, I was there. The minister said that these are the options for funding. VAT from 15 to 17%. A payroll tax. Mr. Still mentioned reinsurance. He mentioned visitors tax and a visitor tax and funding from the CBI. Now, he make it clear. He said that these are the options for consideration. Primary health care, specialized visit, lab tests, hospital care. I think it's investigative care. If that's I think that's the correct word there. It talk about oral, which might just be basic because oral is a very expensive kind of treatment. Emergency, home care, which include nurses visit, acute care, and rehabilitation services. And these are the options for consideration in terms of, what we could include in the basket of services that will be offered. No, Mr. Scott, the more we offer is the more costly it will be. Listen, man, I was sick about 3 years ago, where I came down with a dose of leptospirosis. 6 weeks, 3 times a week, going to dialysis. It cost me $15,000. $15,000, and I didn't have no health insurance. Thank God I have good family. So, this is what the minister say. But do you know, I'm listening to people saying, don't worry about the other options for consideration, because they already have the eyes set on increasing VAT from 15 to 17 and increasing the payroll tax. You know what I mean? And this is not factually correct, Mr. Scott and Mr. Romain. But listen, the bottom line is, they could jump high, they could jump low. We will have a national health insurance in this country, and they could jump high, they could jump low. The NIS, the consideration for the NIS in terms of what the actuaries recommend, we have no other choice. We have no other option. And that is why I have said on many different occasions, the reason why we gave this government 15 seats back to back is because they are the only government that have tackled the hard issues in this country. Whether it is health, whether it is the NIS, or whether it is pension. There is no other government that take on this issue head on. Mr. Scott, listen, mark my words here. Give me 1 second here, please. I know we're running out of time. Now, let me talk about, so I clear on what Mr. Steele have said, and what they're trying to spin is just false and inaccurate. And we must not intentionally and purposely try to mislead the nation, try to hoodwink and bamboozle people. And that is why, you see, we always have to say that the NDC see themselves as an elitist group of people, and what they do is that they look down on everybody else. But give me 2 seconds here, I must get to that. Senator Chester Humphrey, listen, the man is a true champion of the working class, and that's why he supports the NNP today. Why? Because since the revolution, there is no other government that have done more for the poor and working class people of this country like the NNP. And that's why so many of us that was part of the revolution now supports the NNP, because the proof is in the pudding. No other government have done more for workers and working class people in this country like the NNP have done. And this is a fact. Gentlemen, I trust you all will have a pleasant day.
All right,
All right,
thank
my
you very
friend.
much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that caller, he gave a prime example of one of the things that you could find yourself in there.
Exactly.
$15,000 in dialysis over a couple of months. It's difficult for the average dialysis patient right now in Grenada due to the cost of dialysis. That's why government, together with one of the world's premier pharmaceutical companies, have been looking at different types of dialysis that can be done at the General Hospital, together with the pharmaceutical company, to offer an alternative to persons instead of having to go and hook up on the machine and so on. And then there's the plethora of things that you have to do when you hook up to the machine too, because you have to do regular blood tests, you have all these different things that you have to do, and so on. So it's not simply just the dialysis,
No.
Because if you have a communicable disease and you're hooked up to the machine and you infect the machine, then you could infect other people that are going to do dialysis and so on.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of things that have to be considered there. So it's not a cheap something. Healthcare generally is not a cheap something. What government is saying is that basically, I keep saying government, and the thing is what the committee is saying to government. They're saying to government, look, even if a person paying $3 a month, but at the end of the year, that means they pay what?
$36.
$3, right? So they pay $36 or something.
Yeah.
Or even if it's $30 they pay. And they pay $300 and something. At the end of the year, that individual could qualify any time during that period of time for treatment that might be worth $100 and something thousand dollars. Or tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah, that is what government is saying. But before we take any other call or so, I think it's important for folks to hear directly what Minister Steele said. Yeah. And I want folks to listen carefully. And not just listen, but I want folks to hear what he's saying as well. Because sometimes you listen, but you don't hear. All right? Hey, Cousin Hudson, good morning. Cuz, I thought you're supposed to pass down and check your cousin, man. What kind of thing is that? Well, he's one blood, Yeah, let's play what Minister Steele said.
What we can offer or should offer is dependent on what we are prepared to pay and where we get the funding from. So there are various options that have been presented. And I want to be clear, these are options for consideration. Any of these options that I list here is not a decision that is to be implemented, but it is for discussion for us to decide as a party, as a people, as a nation, for your government to decide which is the most acceptable option or group of options. So first and foremost is that there is a recommendation within the region that every government should be giving 10% of its national budget to healthcare. Your government right now gives 7.5, the most that any government in the past has given. So we are increasing that amount. That 7.5, if it were to change to 10%, would result instead of to 84 million into healthcare. That is going to bridge some of the gap. The total cost of all of the things I mentioned before is 181 million a year. So 84 million can come from government increasing its budget. But remember, it's a decision and a discussion. When we increase the budget into healthcare, it comes from somewhere else. It may come from education, it may come from works, it will come from somewhere else. So that's a discussion that we have to have. Other option is an increase in value-added tax. Right now we pay 15%. The suggestion or contemplation is that value-added tax can increase from 15 to 17%, and that 2% goes straight to healthcare. But that is part of your healthcare. So the more you spend, those who spend more are contributing more. Third option is a payroll tax, to put a percentage, an additional percentage, like you pay NIS now, to put an additional percentage that's for NHI. Those who are working, the more money your salary is, the more that 6% contribution is. Again, an option. There are other combinations that we are looking at that will move forward. One is reinsurance, taking some of the money and passing it on to a larger insurance company, international insurance company, so that they will deal with more of the costs. And we pay a smaller amount upfront and they cover more of the costs at the end. Another option is to implement tax on visitors, for instance. Many countries in the region do have that, where they may charge a $10 or $20 or $50 for every tourist that comes in. And that's an insurance tax, and that goes straight to health insurance. But it does mean on the flip side that any one of those individuals gets sick while they're in Grenada, you have to give them the full coverage, just like any one of us. We also are looking at options with respect to CBI, those individuals who have invested in CBI, and there are other options with respect to partnering with other entities. For instance, some of us have been fortunate when we fall upon certain illnesses to have been treated in Cuba for certain that cannot be offered here in Grenada. So an option is to negotiate with governments like Cuba, like Colombia, and others in the region to pay up front for more of our citizens to go. So pay rather than just be taking what they give to us as free. So those are the combinations that we have to look at.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
Yeah, so you've heard Minister
There you
Steele
have
there.
it. Yeah, clear cut.
Minister Steele never said that government is about to implement a 17% VAT.
Never.
You have political activists of another party that are out there saying that. But he never said government. He said he gave options, option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4.
Option 5,
So he
6.
gave several options.
So many options that we can choose from.
So one option, a payroll tax. So it, like we had the National Reconstruction Levy. Remember, we had the National Reconstruction Levy,
of time,
which was a period, a thing on your salary. Something similar to that, maybe not to the level of it, but something similar to that. That everybody, when you're getting your salary, same way you take out NIS, you take out NHI. Yeah, that's one option. Never said that's what government is going to do. He said that is an option. Because in order to fund the basket of services, and when I say basket of services, I mean that, okay, you have a problem, you have a toothache, or you need a teeth that needs to be filled. So the basic services, either an extraction or a filling of a tooth or that sort of thing. If you want to go into maxillofacial facility, what do they call it, facial? Well, anyway, if you want to go into surgery, yeah, like you want to go and do an implant and them kind of thing in the teeth, no, that is another, you pay for that on your own. But the basic services like extraction, filling, cleaning, those basic services, that would be offered. You don't have to go to the health center, you don't have to go to the hospital and pay, that those services will be directly offered to you. Yeah? So that if you have to get, unfortunately there may be an accident and you immediately have to have an x-ray done to see if this person has any broken bones, or you have to do an MRI to see if this person has a brain injury or so on, or you have to do an ultrasound for a pregnant mother or so. So in case those things have to be done, that you don't have to wait and see if somebody come with some money, that you can have those things done immediately. Because those are covered in the basket of services, that those things are being offered through the general hospital. That's in the new emergency wing there. They're making sure that these services are offered there so that you would not have to wait. You're in an accident, they bring you up, immediately the doctors send you to do the assessment and so they know what they're dealing with immediately, because every second counts towards saving your life, right? So that may or may not, but most likely can be in the basket of services that's offered. Yeah? And many other services that probably now you have to pay for, that you would find those in the basket of services that you don't have to go and find a couple $100 or $1,000 and something immediately now to go and have those done. That you need it, it's done one time.
Sheldon, you know why, in my view, healthcare is under such a vicious attack by the naysayers and those who don't want to see progress in this country. Over the last couple of years, they have been seeing steady improvement within the health sector of our country. They are scared that within a couple of months, they've seen a new facility that will be equipped to provide much more services, right, to the Grenadian people than before. They are scared of that, right? They are seeing 4 and 5 and 6 new ambulances running up and down the road. They are scared about that, the progress that this government is making in health.
Yeah. So we're saying here that there are also other options that are being offered as a means to fund that, because they're saying, okay, government portion of it could come up to 84 million. So they're also saying here, they're also suggesting to government, one of the other suggestions as to how, and note, these suggestions came from some of the meetings that would take place in constituencies when they go to St. Mark, when they go to St. Andrew, when they go to St. John, and they speak to people. These are suggestions made by Grenadians. Yeah, because yes, other people jumping up like the government, if you want to cause the government, no problem. That's your constitutional right. But at least do it sensibly, reasonably, and with facts to back it up. Another option the minister spoke about is to take whatever money that is raised, either through whatever program is put here and what money government has already, and pay an insurance company now. So in other words, it's like you have an insurance company, that's the insurance company for everybody in Grenada. And you're paying the money to them, and then they do pretty much what happens with a private insurance. Because with private insurance, let's say, according to what age you enter, you may be paying as little as $40, as much as $100 and something, $200. You're paying to the insurance company on a monthly basis, but then when you have an issue, you could immediately go and get your services and you get refunded, or they do it one time because you have your card that says, I'm covered, right? So what he's saying is that that's an option as well, that government takes the money, puts it into an insurance company, pays an insurance company, so you're paying the insurance company, and then the insurance company now covers all the services that need to be done for the people of Grenada. There's also another option he mentioned. You don't hear them talking about these things. There's another option that he mentioned there. That's the option of funding through the CBI program. Yeah, the Citizenship by Investment program. That you may be able through that program now to fund different aspects of this. He also spoke of another option. He spoke of the option of countries like Cuba. Those countries that traditionally Grenada has had a good relationship with in providing doctors and also providing other services to Grenadians. In fact, right now we could be sure that there are Grenadians receiving medical treatment there in Cuba. That probably part to reduce the costs, a good portion of it can be done in conjunction with the government and people of Cuba
and Colombia
to provide health services to the people of Grenada.
Yeah.
So there are different options that are being offered. But again, some people like to float off on a tangent. Yeah, some people fall off on a tangent.
They can't stand it. They can't stand the way we're going.
But we have to remember the same thing that obtains when it comes to the National Insurance Scheme is what will obtain in relation to the National Health Insurance. That in order for it to be sustainable, there must be a flow of cash into it on a constant basis. Because you can't expect that government is raising $84 million on a yearly basis to fund national health insurance, but yet still national health insurance costs $181 million a year. Because what is going to happen there is that it's going to bust, and it's going to bust in a short space of time.
Yeah. A lot of the services and so will not be provided.
Yeah.
Thus leaving a ill healthcare
because
system.
You can't continue to have a situation where a school child needs a certain procedure, a procedure that could be in the basket of services, or even if it's not in the basket of services, some of the auxiliary services attached to that, some of the things that need to be done before that major surgery or whatever it is that can be done, that costs a significant amount of money as well, may be covered in the basket of services that could reduce the hardship on the parents that are trying to get that done.
Exactly.
But some people saying, leave it as it is.
It's a win-win situation. But as I say, it is important for us to continue that discussion as a people, continue to receive information, educate ourselves, learn more, make suggestions, right? Hey, you're not out there and you must not feel that you cannot make suggestions towards the improvement of health in your country.
No one is saying that.
Right? No one is saying that. Anyone in Grenada, right, can come forward with an idea that can help solve the problem with health. We need to discuss and be a part of the discussions, right, as it goes along when it comes to our health. Very important.
So we are saying that the basket of services have to be paid for somehow.
Has to be paid for.
Yeah? So that even if you're receiving basic cancer treatment, let's say that as I said, I am just calling out things. I do not know what the final basket of services are because they're working on what the final basket of services are.
Discussion
they mentioned that dental could be part of it. Well, will be part of it.
Part of it.
But just not the upper thing. So you want to go and do your braces and you want to go and...
Yeah, that's a private. That's your personal
that's private.
thing. Yeah.
But the cleaning
extraction
and the extraction...
And the basic thing
you
in
could
here.
get that done.
Definitely.
Yeah? Under it. So we're saying here that it has to be paid for somehow. And we have to make up our minds as a people. If we want it, and if we want it, how are we willing to make sure that it happens?
Exactly.
Yeah?
Successfully.
We have to make sure. Because there are different options. Maybe, I'm not the repository of all knowledge, neither are you. No one is the repository of all knowledge. Someone may have a brilliant idea.
That's out there.
of how to fund this. And that is why the approach of the government, the approach of the National Health Insurance Committee, the approach of the administration has never been to just not listen to what people have to say. That is why I've been having forums island-wide.
Consultations, very important.
That is why these have been taking place. There may be somebody out there that just has the brilliant idea that this is what needs to be done, this is how it can work, and that is how it will fund the entire thing.
Yeah.
Yeah? But when you take the approach and the political approach, because this has nothing to do with politics, because the people of Grenada, when something going and happen, when earthquake pass, it don't pass and just shake down one political party. Only a fool, a dunce individual would think that.
Rain falls.
When Ivan passed, he didn't blow off one political party roof and leave on the other one roof. All roof went.
He blew out all the roof.
When illness had to take people, no matter which political party you belong to, when illness have to take people, he take everybody. When V pass, everybody get. When Zika pass, everybody get. It didn't matter which political party you belong to. So when illness is coming, it affects all of us. So it is a dunce, a stupid, a foolish, an idiotic position to look at something as national health insurance from a strictly political viewpoint. To start with the thing about he can't walk because that is politics. This has nothing to do with politics.
Negative things, they always, that's...
You know the importance of dental care, especially to children for health later in life.
Yeah.
So you want to put something in place now to be able to deal with that dental aspect and things. So children, they can ensure that they have proper teeth growing up and so on, and it affects their overall health. Yeah? But some people say leading as it is. Some people say you can't walk and just forget that and different things like that without offering alternative suggestions. And realistic, important alternative suggestions.
Sheldon, as we quickly winding down, all right, our time has been... There's a particular point, just to shift a little bit, right? An announcement that the Prime Minister made, okay, that I think we need to take and expound that a bit. Daily paid workers in our country is finally, right, getting the attention that they need. Pension, Sheldon.
We're going to expand on that one tomorrow because we only have 3
exactly.
minutes. But I wanted to go back to what we were talking about. We'll start on that one tomorrow too. But there's one or two other aspects that Minister Steele spoke. I don't want to leave the thing to the Prime Minister, but we only have 3 minutes. We can't go in depth into it. But when it comes to the visitor tax, that's another suggestion again. A visitor tax. If you go to St. Kitts or one of these places and so, when they have carnival, they have a tax on people coming into the country for carnival, you know. You know that?
Because you see
they have a carnival tax. When you enter into their territory during carnival time, you have to pay a specific tax for entering during that time.
Yeah, because that is necessary, because the influx of persons coming in, you need to safeguard your healthcare system. The overload, you know, it may create and everything like that. So it's a brilliant idea, you know. But there are so many ideas that is outside there that can make this, that can bring a solution to the health, in our country. We need to have the discussions, right, to come up with a viable solution, right? And we Grenadians, we good at that. We can sit down and discuss and come up with the best solution, right, for all of us. Remember, the future of this country lies in our hands, right?
Yeah, so there are several suggestions, several options. We let you hear what the minister said, and we're going to play it again. I wonder where you have it. Yeah. I just had it there, you know. We're going to play it again in a little while for you so that you can hear the options that are being placed on the table. It's not died in the wool, and that's not the final thing, and that's not the only thing. And that's not, the way I hear some people trying to speak and all kind of thing, they would swear that an announcement came across that this is what is going to be done, and that is the end of it.
You see, because they're so mad that things are getting much better in health. Boy, they are furious. They're saying all kinds of things. It can't work. It can't this. But,
Here's what. We're going to end by broadcasting again what the minister said, so you could hear for yourself that what he's saying, the options are.
Exactly.
Not this is what we're going to do. The options are, this is what is being suggested. We've not met and spoken. You might want to speak to your MP and say, listen, I don't think that one is a good option, but I think this one is an option. You might want to message or write your MP. You might want to talk to your MP and say, look, I think this is a good option here that we should consider. Yeah? Because we know that you're all intelligent and you can do it. Folks, that's all the time we have for Hard Talk. It's been wonderful being here. And whatever you say and do it safe and secure. Want to be speaking to and with you.
And not about you.
Yeah, and we're going to play that for you right now.
What we can offer or should offer is dependent on what we are prepared to pay and where we get the funding from. So there are various options that have been presented. And I want to be clear, these are options for consideration. Any of these options that I list here is not a decision that is to be implemented, but it is for discussion for us to decide as a party, as a people, as a nation, for your government to decide which is the most acceptable option or group of options. So first and foremost is that there is a recommendation within the region that every government should be giving 10% of its national budget to healthcare. Your government right now gives 7.5, the most that any government in the past has given. So we are increasing that amount. That 7.5, if it were to change to 10%, would result instead of to 84 million into healthcare. That is going to bridge some of the gap. The total cost of all of the things I mentioned before is 181 million a year. So 84 million can come from government increasing its budget. But remember, it's a decision and a discussion. When we increase the budget into healthcare, it comes from somewhere else. It may come from education, it may come from works, it will come from somewhere else. So that's a discussion that we have to have. Other option is an increase in value-added tax. Right now we pay 15%. The suggestion or contemplation is that value-added tax can increase from 15 to 17%, and that 2% goes straight to healthcare. And that is part of your healthcare. So the more you spend, those who spend more are contributing more. Third option is a payroll tax, to put a percentage, an additional percentage, like you pay NIS now, to put an additional percentage that's for NHI. Those who are working, the more money your salary is, the more that 6% contribution is. Again, an option. There are other combinations that we are looking at that will move forward. One is reinsurance. Taking some of the money and passing it on to a larger insurance company, international insurance company, so that they will deal with more of the costs. And we pay a smaller amount upfront and they cover more of the costs at the end. Another option is to implement tax on visitors, for instance. Many countries in the region do have that, where they may charge at $10 or $20 or $50 for every tourist that comes in. And that's an insurance tax, and that goes straight to health insurance. But it does mean on the flip side that any one of those individuals gets sick while they're in Grenada, you have to give them the full coverage, just like any one of us. We also are looking at options with respect to CBI, those individuals who have invested in CBI, and there are other options with respect to partnering with other entities. For instance, some of us have been fortunate when we fall upon certain illnesses to have been treated in Cuba for certain treatment that cannot be offered here in Grenada. So an option is to negotiate with governments like Cuba, like Colombia, and others in the region to pay up front for more of our citizens to go. So pay rather than just be taking what they give to us as free. So those are the combinations that we have to look at.
Grenada among 10 regional countries preparing water sector program for GCF funding. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Monday, May 27th, I am Rikisha St. Louis. Grenada is among 10 Caribbean countries meeting in St. George's this week to prepare a regional water sector program for submission to the Green Climate Fund. The focus of the three-day meeting is to strengthen the capacity of Caribbean water utilities and government ministries responsible for water resource management to develop climate-resilient water proposals. Participants will learn about the Green Climate Fund and funding opportunities and will also be introduced to the GCF concept note and funding proposal template. The GCF, which was established in 2010, seeks to provide financial assistance to developing countries in adaptation and mitigation practices to counter climate change. Grenada has already benefited from the GCF through its G-Cruise project, which creates a climate-resilient water sector with reduced water demand and increased freshwater availability. Climate Resilience Minister Senator Simon Steele is pleased that Grenada's Resilient Water Project can be a model for other islands. He stressed the importance of considering the plans for adaptation to long spells of drought and other climatic conditions.
And the need for us to adapt to that, to be able to address the dangers and the threats of flooding, but also how we capture rainfall during those intense periods, capture, collect, store, and then be able to distribute. And then how we get through those extended drought periods through water efficiency, through better management of our water resources. So once again, I commend the 5 C's for this initiative, focusing on interventions as how we can better manage the water sector.
Meanwhile, head of programming at the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, Keith Nichols, is warning that the region is running out of time. Addressing the start of the workshop at the St. George's University on Monday, Nichols said the region must work quickly to secure money from the Green Climate Fund, since projections are that sea levels will rise by another 2 meters by the year 2100.
It means that most of our coastal communities and a lot of countries here in the region are on the coast, our ports, seaports and airports and so on, are almost at sea level, if not at sea level, are at risk. including our groundwater resources. And that is a frightening prospect. So we're not only, as we're here talking for us for today, but also for our future generations. We have an obligation to the future. It's not for ourselves. Yeah, ourselves in the interim, but we need to think ahead of our kids and their kids in turn. And we're not leaving behind a very strong base on which they can survive, unfortunately.
Several recommendations are on the table for funding the national health insurance, including a possible increase in VAT or a payroll tax for NHI, but Health Minister Honorable Nicholas Steele says no firm decision has yet been taken. Addressing the NMP General Council at the Boca Secondary School on Sunday, Minister Steele says they have completed all studies done with WI and the actuary Mona Chappell. He said there are various options presented for consideration, which the government must fully discuss.
There is a recommendation within the region that every government should be giving 10% of its national budget to healthcare. Your government right now gives 7.5, the most that any government in the past has given. So we are increasing that amount. That 7.5, if it were to change to 10%, would result instead of to 84 million into healthcare. That is going to bridge some of the gap. The total cost of all of the things I mentioned before is 181 million a year. So 84 million can come from government increasing its budget. But remember, it's a decision and a discussion. When we increase the budget into healthcare, it comes from somewhere else. It may come from education, it may come from works, it will come from somewhere else. So that's a discussion that we have to have. Other option is an increase in value-added tax. Right now we pay 15%. The suggestion or contemplation is that value-added tax can increase from 15 to 17%, and that 2% goes straight to healthcare. But you know, that is part of your healthcare. So the more you spend, those who spend more are contributing more. Third option is a payroll tax, to put a percentage, an additional percentage, like you pay NIS now, to put an additional percentage that's for NHI. For those who are working, the more money your salary is, the more that 6% contribution is. Again, an option.
Other options presented include reinsurance, implementation of a tax on visitors, and options with respect to the CBI program. Minister Steele says they need to make a decision between June and July as to the form of funding so that it can be incorporated in the upcoming budget for implementation of the program in 2020. The services being recommended include primary health care, hospital care, investigative services, basic dental health care, emergency care, home care visits, and acute psychological care, among others. This is the National Report. More news when we return.
The excitement builds for the Grenada Music Festival 2019. 3 nights of pulsating live music and great food. The festival kicks off on Friday, June 7th with Rhythm and Soul, featuring Freddie Jackson, Carrie Hilson, Eddie Bullen, Jefferson Ramirez and the Solid Band, and more. Saturday is Reggae Fest with performances by Busy Signal, Maxi Priest, Kamani Marley, and a special surprise guest. The festival climaxes on Sunday, June 9th with Soca Fusion featuring the All-Stars with Blacks and Teddyson John, Patrice Roberts, Was Ways, and many more. General admission Friday and Saturday $80. Sunday you pay only $60. Limited early bird, season pass, and VIP tickets now available at GoToFet.com. It's the most talked about event of the year, GMF 2019. June 7th to 9th. Get your tickets today.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell says there must be an exit strategy in the Imani program so that young people can know their aptitude at the end and therefore take advantage of available opportunities. Dr. Mitchell, who was at the time addressing Sunday's General Council at the Boca Secondary School, said it is unfair for young people to continue performing as Imanis after the 2-year mark. He says they must secure those who would have performed commendably and are needed by their particular institution.
An important part of this new exercise is the exit strategy. So young people coming in will know when a year and a half in the program, you should know your aptitude for particular activity. So if it is a cooperative in agriculture to build production in the agricultural sector, we have you there. If it's an IT group that can provide services to the community, you are empowered to have a business in that area. If it is an area in other forms of tourism activity, you will be trained accordingly for opportunities, exiting with opportunities. If you're in the Ministry of Health and you're providing excellent service and they want you, we say they have to create opportunities for you.
Finally, while the figures were alarming in 2018, drug trafficking seizures are now on the decline. That's according to head of the drug squad of the Royal Grenada Police Force, Assistant Superintendent Simon Dixon. In 2018, Caribbean law enforcement units were forced to implement stringent measures to curb the drastic increase in drug trafficking seizures, especially coming from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He said from the month of May into December, multilateral collaborations between Grenada and neighboring islands deepened as they formulated solutions to deal with the issue. During that same period, the Financial Intelligence Unit reported that over $600,000 was sent from St. Vincent, the hub of drug trade in the Caribbean. ASP Dixon said he is happy that so far for 2019, drug trafficking has decreased.
What we have seen is a slight decrease in the period 2019 when we compare it to the same period last year. But yes, the activity is still there. The trafficking of cannabis from neighboring St. Vincent is still active. A number of factors responsible for the decrease in seizures can amount to, well, what I can say for 2019, St. Vincent and Grenadine law enforcement, our counterparts, have been conducting a number of operations within their territory, which means that less cannabis is coming down our direction. Again, we've seen less cannabis being transported from St. Vincent. I want to believe that they're considering the losses. In case they lose that, the loss with small amounts would not be a problem.
He said the importation of cannabis is also responsible for the decline in local drug cultivation.
There's been a reduction throughout the years, and we've seen that with the increase of cannabis being imported, that the number of cultivation goes down. There's still cultivations, however, small crops. And I remember back in my years in this special service unit, when we go on raid fields, we used to come back with trucks. That is not the case now again. Climatic conditions has changed over the years that reduce the cultivation of cannabis.
In Grenada, trafficking of cannabis weighing more than 15 grams can lead to a charge of up to 12 years imprisonment by the magistrate or 25 years to life by the judge. That story just ended the national report for today, Monday, May 27th. Let's recap the top story. Grenada among 10 regional countries preparing water sector program for GCF funding. On behalf of everyone here at the Government Information Service who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
It's coming, the new family of EC polymer notes.
What is different about these notes?
The feel.
Polymer notes are made from a thin plastic film which makes the notes feel smoother than the paper notes.
The orientation.
The notes have a portrait orientation. You will read the notes from top to bottom instead of left to right as you do with the paper notes.
Unique tactile feature.
The front of each note has raised bumps at the top left-hand corner. These bumps form shapes that are familiar to you.
Holographic foil strip.
This feature is on the $20, $50, and $100. When you tilt the notes, the images and colors in this section will change.
New image on the $50.
The back of the $50 bears the image of former governor of the ECCB, the late Honorable Sir K. Dwight Venner.
New signature.
All the notes bear the signature of the current governor, Timothy N.J. Antoine.
EC polymer notes. Cleaner, safer, stronger.
Another explosive celebration of cultural ecstasy has dawned upon us. One that every citizen, every visitor, and every nation has come to relish because of our unique carnival with its multiple diversity. I am Kemik DeGale, your 2018 reigning carnival queen. It has been a pleasure to share and embrace the warmth of your hearts. As we forge ahead to yet another immaculate experience, I invite you all to participate in the pinnacle of celebration on August 12th and 13th. Be amused by the traditional mass and kiddies carnival frolic. Come share in the harmonious sound of the steel pan, the sweet rhythms of the groovy, the frenzy of soca monarch, and the hard-biting lyrics of calypso. Majestic Thursday on August 8th will be a night that celebrates beauty and encapsulates women power. Oh yes, our famous World Juve noted for our jab jab, our electrifying display of light and mass on Monday night, and the showcase of picturesque fancy mass. Let's dig deep within our roots and cultural awareness and run with building another spectacular carnival.
It. 2018 was great. 2019, this will be epic. This is me, Scholar, 2018 Calypso Monarch of Grenada, and I'm inviting one and all to come down to Grenada for Spice Mass, the greatest, biggest festival in all of the world. I'm inviting you to the Mardi Gras, where I will be chasing after history. This year, the Mardi Gras, this will be the greatest Mardi Gras of all the Mardi Gras. All the bards will be coming.
I want to tell Mr. Killer, come over, the message to lava, come over.
Man, if you want to win the monarchy, do head reduction surgery. They talk going around the tongue. Your head too big for the crown.
So listen to what I say. Forget about CCJ.
So what are you waiting for? Just book your ticket and come down. Last carnival was real bacchanal, and this year going to be the mother of all. The boom boom going to ring, artists going to sing. Pam pam. Big up for Simon.
Hello, my name is Michaela Williams, winner of the Festival of the Arts Secondary School Solo Pan Competition. And these are my colleagues.
We are members of the Full Comanchero Steel Orchestra, your current panorama champions.
Having won 3 of the last full panorama competitions in Spice Mass.
We are inviting you to Spice Mass 2019, especially junior and senior panorama, at the National Stadium on Saturday, 10th August 2019.
Come and enjoy the experience, the excitement, and the skills of the players of the various steel orchestra. Suzuki Pan Wizards,
Republic Bank Interlaps,
New Dimension,
Panacea,
Melody Warriors,
Rainbow City All-Stars, Grand Roy Pan Angels, Digital Florida All-Stars,
and of course, Flow Comancheros.
After Panorama, you can join us on the road for Juve and Parade of the Bands on Monday the 12th and Tuesday the 13th of August.
Spice Mass 2019. Don't miss it.
Every summer, the Spice Island of Grenada is transformed into the Caribbean's biggest party, Spice Mass.
Coming down to Grenada.
Come experience the warmth of our people, trending theme fats, the revelry, the pageantry, and why we are the Jab Nation. The Kids Our Future shines on August 3rd in the Children's Carnival Frolic and the Junior Calypso Show. 7 beauties take center stage as the Queen of Carnival is crowned on Majestic Thursday, August 8th. The prestigious Soca and Groovy Monarchs are crowned on Carnival Friday night, August 9th. Enjoy the pulsating rhythms of the steel pan at the Junior and the Senior Panorama on Carnival Saturday, August 10th, and Real Steel, August 17th. The Mardi Gras crowns the Calypso Monarch on Carnival Sunday, August 11th. 2 days of frolicking in the Caribbean sun kicks off on Monday morning, August 12th, with the biggest Juve in the world. Followed by pageant and Monday night mass. The creativity and splendor of our mass parades on the road Carnival Tuesday, August 13th. Join us in the Jab Nation of Grenada, August 8th to 12th for Spice Mass 2019. Many events, one carnival.